Well, today is Monday, March 9th. I'm Brittany Noble, and here's what's coming up today on The Breakdown. A stunning revelation to the case we told you about last week. Cleveland police arrest a woman connected to the black girls found dead in suitcases. Growing your own food can now become a reality. An organization is helping people grow their own fruits and vegetables. Organizers will explain the process coming up. And author Stache Smith will join us to help Black women who are often stretched thin from the pools of life heal their soul and find purpose. We'll talk with her about the ultimate guide on restoring relationships and the heart. The breakdown starts now. Well, a Cleveland mother has been charged with murder after two black girls were found in a suitcase. You may recall that we mentioned this case last week. Investigators say 28-year-old Aaliyah Henderson, who is the girl's mother, has been indicted on 2 counts of aggravated murder and is being held in a Cuyahoga County jail. She was booked on Wednesday, 2 days after the girls' remains were found Monday evening by a dog walker near her home on the east side of the city. The girls have been identified as 10-year-old Amir Wilson and 8-year-old Mila Chapman. Their cause of death has not yet been revealed. Well, a federal appeals court decided with the lower judge's ruling against the Trump administration's effort to end temporary protected status for roughly 350,000 Haitians living in the United States. The U.S. Court of Appeals in Washington, D.C. issued the 2-1 ruling on Friday. Temporary protected status can be granted by the Homeland Security Secretary if conditions in the home countries are deemed unsafe for return due to a national disaster, political instability, or other dangers. While it grants TPS holders the right to live and work in the U.S., it does not provide a legal pathway to citizenship. Haiti's TPS status was initially activated in 2010 after a catastrophic earthquake and has been extended multiple times. The country has been racked by gang violence that has displaced hundreds of thousands of people. The Trump administration has aggressively sought to remove the protection, making more people eligible for deportation. Well, former Michigan football coach Sharon Moore reached a plea deal and will avoid a trial in the case surrounding his arrest for allegedly breaking into the home and threatening the woman he had an affair with. Moore pleaded no contest to malicious use of a telecommunications device and 1 count of trespassing during his court appearance on Friday, March 6th. Both are misdemeanors and new charges. The malicious use charge is punishable by up to 6 months in jail and a $1,000 fine, while the trespassing charge is punishable by up to 30 days in jail and a $250 fine. The 3 previous charges, a felony count of home invasion and 2 misdemeanors, are dismissed. And the FBI is investigating if ISIS inspired an attack outside the New York City mayor Zohran Mamdani's residence. 2 men from Pennsylvania were arrested after an explosive device was ignited and thrown outside his Gracie mansion over the weekend. It comes as anti-Islam protest was organized by people associated with Jake Lang, a pardoned January 6 rioter and far-right influencer, on Saturday. More than a group of 100 counter-protesters gathered, angered by the anti-Islam protests, brought the homemade bombs, one of the bombs being an improved explosive device that could have caused serious injury or even death. Federal terrorism charges are pending. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and pro-Iranian groups have intensified recruiting and calls for violence online since the war with Iran started just over a week ago. Well, President Donald Trump urges college sports leaders to return to pre-NIL era. He announced his plans to release an executive order within a week that will address the future of college sports. Trump hosted the first Saving College Sports roundtable meeting in the East Room on Friday afternoon, where he was joined by about 50 people from varied backgrounds, including politicians, sports celebrities, university presidents, chancellors, and athletic directors. The meeting started with repeated acknowledgments of the many challenges facing the industry and ended with a frustrated Trump railing against Senate Democrats and the court system. Others who spoke delivered a similar message. College sports needs federal legislation to restore order in the NIL space and its overall economics. Trump further announced his plans to solve all the problems. Just take a listen.
The amount of money being spent and lost by otherwise very successful schools is astounding just in a short period of time. It's only going to get worse. So we have to save college sports and save, I believe, colleges. Ultimately, we have to go through, I'd do an executive order. I'd love to do that. I'll probably do it anyway. We'll do an executive order. We'll see how it works, because it would be a really nice, I have a really nice, simple idea. They are canceling golf, they're canceling wrestling, they're canceling fencing, they're canceling even basketball. I thought that would be maybe immune, but it's in trouble. And it's all going to football, but ultimately football is going to be the worst laggard of all. It's not going to be affordable, and it's going to take down practically every college. In my opinion, it's going to take down virtually every college.
Well, the meeting was scheduled for an hour, but it lasted almost 2 hours. Northern Louisiana HBCU Grambling State University lands a legal victory over its iconic black and gold G logo. On March 2nd, the school revealed a decades-long triumph had finally come. The school finalized the federal trademark registration for the G under the U.S. trademark registration. Now that logo was made famous by the university's football team and head coach Eddie Robinson. It now has full control over how the brand will be used in partnerships for the foreseeable future. The logo is similar to the G used by the Green Bay Packers and the Georgia Bulldogs. Since 1998, the school has been embroiled in a legal fight over its logo. Grambling State University President Martin Lamel Jr. says this registration represents more than a legal achievement. It is a declaration of ownership over our history, our excellence, and our brand. Well, Chicago will get its first full look at the Obama Presidential Center during a full slate of grand opening celebrations over Juneteenth weekend. The center is a cultural museum that aims to inspire, empower, and connect people. It has 4 levels of exhibits that tell the story of the first family. It is located on the south side of Chicago. A dedication ceremony is set for June 18th for former President Barack Obama's namesake museum and campus in Jackson Park, which will be open to the public on June 19th. Additional community celebrations will be held on campus June 20th and 21st. Former Obama White House advisor Valerie Jarrett said on Saturday in an interview on MS Now's The Weekend that President Donald Trump has not been invited to participate in the opening ceremony. The former U.S. president announced the opening date of the museum on social media and gave a preview of what we can look forward to ahead of the center's opening.
It's easy to look around right now and feel like the challenges we face are simply too big. But hope is not about ignoring the hard stuff. It is that thing inside us that insists something better awaits if we're willing to work for it. Here on the south side of Chicago, hope is getting a permanent home. Starting on June 19th, you can visit the Obama Presidential Center, a campus with a world-class museum, a new branch of the Chicago Public Library, sweeping green spaces filled with public art, yes, a basketball court, and more. This is a place where a child from next door or across the globe can sit behind the Resolute desk and imagine how they could help create a better world. All week long, we'll honor all the people who've been with us on this journey, from those who helped launch our campaign, served in my administrations, and helped build the center, to all of you who want to turn hope into action. This is not a monument to the past. It's a living destination for people who refuse to accept the status quo. If you feel that way, this is your invitation to join us. Sign up to be the first to know about updates, events, and tickets.
Well, Obama launched his political career in Chicago and has a home in Kenwood. Bernard Lafayette, a key early civil rights organizer who helped integrate lunch counters and public spaces in Nashville and across the South during the 1960s, has died. He passed away on March 5th. He was 85 years old. Lafayette once wrote, "The value of life lies not in longevity, but in what people do to give it significance." He faced constant death threats during the civil rights movement. Because of his actions, Nashville became the first city in the South to desegregate public spaces. More Black Alabamians voted because of this efforts in Selma. Then later in life, he poured himself into helping young people at the American Baptist College. And Jamaica has officially ended its 50-year medical cooperation program with Cuba. This marks a significant shift in the country's healthcare system. The decision was announced by Jamaican's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, led by Foreign Minister Stache Smith. The program was discontinued after both governments were unable to agree on new terms for a technical cooperation arrangement following the expiration of the previous agreement in February of 2023. Despite the end of the formal bilateral program, Jamaican officials indicated that Cuban healthcare workers currently on the island will be allowed to remain for the duration of their existing contracts. This decision reflects the ongoing geopolitical dynamics and the impact of international scrutiny on health policy and diplomacy in the Caribbean region. Well, for more news on the Black Star Network, remember that you can visit our website. That's the Black Star Network. We are your source for stories that matter to our community. We'll be right back. You're watching The Breakdown on the Black Star Network.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
I'm Risa Colbert, and you're watching the Black Star Network.
Well, sustainable change begins in the soul. The Creative Juice Network is on a mission to healing Black women, families, and communities from the inside out. The organization works on restoring fragmented relationships in an effort to foster better homes and better communities. Founder of Creative Juice Network, LLC, Stache Smith began her career as a nurse and found her purpose and passion as an author and certified life coach. With 20 years in healthcare leadership and population health, she's aiming to heal people beyond their physical nature. She wants them to go deeper, and Stache joins us today on the breakdown. Welcome.
Thank you. So glad to be here, Brittany.
Happy to have you. Can you tell us what inspired you to start this healing journey?
Yes, so through my own personal journey, as a nurse, as a woman, and as a coach, I've had to walk the journey of healing my own emotional wounds, which really affected how I showed up in the world, how I showed up in my community, in my relationships, which really developed me in a way to be able to, accept the assignment and call to provide the tools, the pathways, and the resources to help others and other women particularly do the same.
So you wrote a book, and in it you talk about nourishing the soul through spiritual discipline. Explain this. How does one nourish their soul through spiritual discipline?
Yes, so the soul is the seat of our will, our mind, and our emotions, but it's also the place where we get our identity. It's also the place where emotional and traumatic wounds live. So it's really important that, people are able to get in a place where they understand how that impacts their purpose and be able to walk through the journey of healing the soul. Because when the soul heals, purpose can now live there. So it really increases the capacity and the abundance. I always say that, we speak a lot about Black excellence, but we really need to start changing that narrative to Black peace, right? And also being able to present with Black wholeness. And that's really the purpose of soul purpose, is to do just that, to heal the soul so that others can discover their purpose.
And let's talk about purpose a little bit more. How does knowing your purpose in life help foster better relationships?
Yes, that's such a great question. So purpose is really what are we called to do, right? I know for me through journaling, because Creative Juice Network, of course, is really about creative ways to heal and presenting those pathways. But it's really about understanding once you're able to, expand through that healing process, being able to have increased capacity to understand what your purpose to do. And I'll give an example just for me as a nurse. I've been in situations where I've been around a lot of women, right, who were in, physical states of manifestation of the traumatic experiences and the pain starting to manifest in their physical bodies, and having disease and, blood pressure issues and behavioral disorders, simply not being able to, impact those physical disease states and presentations because they haven't been able to deal with the wounds. So understanding to be able to do that, it presents, a physical, health and a soul health, right? Mind, will, and emotional health, so that people can then begin to start moving from surviving, right, in ways where they're just trying to cope with, life and coping with it in unhealthy presentations, to now being able to become healthy and then be able to say, now I can start to look at, right, my talents and my gifts and the assignments and calls and places that I thrive and want to be able to impact the lives of others. And what is my purpose in doing that? And that doesn't have to be big for everyone. It can be being right in your household as a mother, as a wife, as a friend, as a community, engagement, activity, and just being involved in community. But a lot of people aren't even able to expand to get there because they haven't dealt with their internal states and internal wounds that are keeping them from really thriving in their lives. And that is what purpose is really being able to go from surviving to actually thriving.
I know one of the other things that you heavily focus on is the fractured relationship that can exist between a Black woman and their mother. Why is that so critical to take a look at?
Yes, because, we talk about sisterhood, but one of the, areas that I focus on in Creative Juice Network is intergenerational healing, right? From every generation, every woman has the, ability to reap the benefits from the generations before them, in between them, and after them, right? So, within the Black community, there's always been a stigma of that's your mom, right? That's your mama, or what goes on in this house stays in this house. But what I've had to understand is that healing the mother wound is not about shame. It's about women being able to identify the places where they were mothered and the places that they weren't, and how can they start to then nurture and find ways to nurture their internal child and identify those places that were gapped. Because a mother, all mothers learn, right? Mothering is a learning experience. It's not a shameful presentation of my mom didn't do this or that, because a lot of times they've been able to do what they were able to do based on what they received and what their experience was. So it's really about taking that internal reflection to say, this is what I needed, this is what I didn't get. Now, what do I need to do in order to meet those needs and to mother from within, so that it increases capacity for women to show up not only for themselves, but to show up for other women and to really develop true sisterhood and community.
And talk to us a little bit more about your journal prompt, Dear Mama.
Yes. So Dear Mama, when I wrote the journal, it's really because journaling helps to slow the brain down. It's really a place where deep reflection and being able to take moments, especially in a world that's driven off of social media, driven off of, this fast-paced environment. Dear Mama is a place where you can actually reflect and understand what that internal mother experience was and how to start to then develop and engage ways to mother. So Dear Mama, of course, came from, the Tupac song, where he, of course, eloquently spoke about the struggles of his mom, right? The struggles of her addiction and her abandonment and not really being there, but then also recognizing that she was still his mother, and honoring that experience and honoring that place of who she was in his life, and that women can do the same in their mother experience as they walk through their healing as well.
So if you want to get Stache's book, it's called Soul Purpose, Heal the Soul, Discover Your Purpose. And where can we purchase this book, Stache?
The book can be purchased on Amazon under Soul Purpose. Yes, because again, when the soul heals, purpose can then live. So my goal and my passion is to see women live and to live fully in their purpose as they identify the places in their lives that they need to take the healing journey, and coming alongside them to do just that, also as a life coach. So really excited about Soul Purpose, and I know that it will speak to the lives of many. So truly blessed by this and being able to birth this through my own personal journey and where it's brought me to. So super excited.
And when is your next cohort, and how can people sign up?
Yes, so the cohort starts on April the 7th. We will meet every Tuesday for 8 weeks at the Flanner House in the Pioneer Room, because we are pioneering, right, a new dimension of healing and restoration in our communities. And we will meet for those 8 weeks. And I have 2 guest speakers coming in that will be talking about fear and love, and also grief, because that's a huge wound, and how to overcome grief. So truly excited about our guest speakers and about our cohort, and look forward to women taking that leap because we invest in so many things, but it is really necessary and pivotal in this time like never before to invest in healing.
Stache Smith, thank you so much for joining us today on The Breakdown.
Thank you.
Well, coming up, in case you missed it on Roland Martin Unfiltered, Jesse Jackson Jr. honors his father, Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr., at his funeral and explains why his father's biggest achievement was not political power. It was restoring hope and dignity. More of that coming up after the break. And have you come across a news story that deserves our attention? Remember, we want to hear from you. So please, we're going to put that QR code. It's on your screen right now. Just scan that and please connect with us. We'll see you after the break. You're watching The Breakdown.
They said the quiet part out loud. Black votes are a threat, so they erased them. After the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013, Republican legislatures moved fast. New voter ID laws, polling place shutdowns, purges of black voters from the rolls. Trump's Justice Department didn't stop it, they joined in. In 2018, his DOJ backed Ohio's voter purge system, a scheme that disproportionately erased black voters. Their goal, erase black votes and political power. Yeah, that happened. These are the kinds of stories that we cover every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Subscribe on YouTube and download the Black Star Network app. Support fact-based independent journalism that centers African Americans and the issues that matter to our community.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
What's happening? This is your man, Motown recording artist Kim. You are watching the Black Star Network.
Well, today in our Black and Missing segment, Ohio police are asking for your help in locating a 17-year-old mother and her 4-month-old baby. Morgan Hall and her infant child, Messiah Hall, was last seen leaving an apartment on East 156th Street in Cleveland, Ohio, after 10 p.m. on Thursday, March 5th. Morgan is described as being 5'2", weighing 238 pounds, with brown hair and green eyes. Brown eyes and green hair. Her son Messiah has black hair, brown eyes, and weighs 16 pounds. The mother-son pair are considered to be in danger due to their young ages. If you have any information, please contact the Cleveland Division of Police 5th District at 216-623-5500. Well, in case you missed it on Roland Martin Unfiltered, Black Star Network covered Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr.'s homegoing service in Chicago. At his father's funeral, Jesse Jackson Jr. explains his father's greatest contribution and why hope matters.
If I can have everyone's attention for just a moment, I promise that I'm going to bring this program to a tighter close and get us out of here at a reasonable hour. Abraham Lincoln delivered the Gettysburg Address, Pastor Browning, in 3.5 minutes. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered the I Have a Dream speech in 13.5 minutes. If it can't be said between the Gettysburg Address and I Have a Dream, it ought not be said at all. For what remains of my time, and I promise Yusef that I would not be more than 7 or 8 minutes, I want to talk about my daddy. Now, when Martin Luther King Jr. died in 1968, he was an immensely unpopular figure. Brother Reynolds, Brother Sharpton, members of the Congressional Black Caucus who were present. Dr. King on April 4th, 1968 was immensely unpopular. Who he is today is not who he was on April 4th, 1968. And I'm sensing, Sister Parker, on this occasion that we are moving in the direction of a Jesse Jackson that I wouldn't, Mama, even recognize. Jesse Jackson, at the hour of his death, was not Roland Martin, a popular figure. He would have stood against the war in the Gaza. He would have been fighting for the Affordable Care Act. He would be fighting to save the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and challenging the Supreme Court to render a decision in the Calais decision that would strengthen the Congressional Black Caucus and not undermine it. If you are a member of the Congressional Black Caucus and you are still here, allow us the opportunity to recognize you. Will you please stand? Members of the CBC came from around the country, and our congressional districts are under threat at this hour. I want to try and summarize in the 5 minutes that I have left some of what I heard from everyone, starting with President Clinton. He said, with head and heart. With Head and Heart is the title of the autobiography written by the late Dr. Howard Thurman, who dedicates his life story to simple and haunting simplicity, Mr. Mayor. He dedicates the book, and I quote this, Jonathan, to the stranger in the railroad station in Daytona Beach who restored my broken dream 65 years ago. To the stranger. Who was Jesse Jackson? To the political class that took up most of the time. Dad was a stranger, awaiting a return phone call, reminding the political class of the urgency of the hour. That's who my daddy was. To the economic class that Jim Reynolds talked about on Wall Street. My father had no qualifications in business or in finance to be able to talk intelligently initially about the transactions of Wall Street, but to them, he was the stranger. So this story comes together in Howard Thurman's book with my final 4 minutes in this way, Brother Turner. It says that Howard Thurman's sharecropping family had been gathering in the Deep South all of the coins of their hard work, and they had put just enough money together to send Howard Thurman to college by buying him a train ticket. And when he got to the train station, after having loaded all of the broken pieces, Pastor Dates, into his life and of his life into a trunk, the conductor of the train told him, Judge Mathis, that he could not carry the trunk on the train unless he bought another ticket. And so Howard Thurman went over in the corner of the train station and he began crying for the idea that after all that his family had been through, he would not, mama, be going to college. And as he cried through those tears, he looked up and saw a pair of brown, old, rustic boots. And then he looked up and he saw a man in overalls. And he looked up and he saw a black man. And he said, the black man said to him, son, why are you crying, boy? And Howard Thurman said, because the broken pieces of my life I cannot take with me to college because I need a ticket. And the old man, Sister Bryant and Reverend Bryant, reached into his pocket and pulled out a little leather sack and took some coins and went and bought Howard Thurman a ticket for his luggage. And Howard Thurman says in the story that all he remembers is the man walking down the train tracks while he and the train were heading in the opposite direction. Pastor Muncie, he dedicates his book to the stranger who changed the trajectory of his life by restoring his hope. Every single person in here has a Jesse Jackson story. The time he shook your hand, the time he prayed for you, the time he held you up, the time he prayed the funeral for somebody that you know, the time he was at the hospital for you, the time, Roland, when you lost your job and he prayed you to a new course of existence. Everybody has, Sister Waters, their own Jesse Jackson story. Why? Because according to Dr. Walter Fluker, the infinite Howard Thurman scholar, he says to Howard Thurman, the stranger, watch this, preachers, the stranger was God. Two minutes. The stranger was God because he redeemed and restored the hope of Howard Thurman, a man whose name he did not know, and he sent him to college. At the moment that he needed hope, hope showed up in the form of a stranger. It's impossible, Roland Burris, for one man to know all of the people that Jesse Jackson has touched. Everybody here doesn't have the number. He don't need it no more. 773-251-6353. But just about everybody in here had the number 773-251-6353. It's a flip phone. It's analog. He didn't believe in iPhones and Samsung. He believed in a flip phone. Because whenever we needed Isaiah the stranger, that's what I heard you say, when the stranger showed up in the locker room, when the stranger showed up in them projects, when the stranger showed up, the stranger came in the form and in the embodiment of Jesse Jackson. because he is the one, Reverend Sharpton, who we came into contact with, who restored our hope and changed the trajectory of our lives. No, I'm going to go on ahead tomorrow morning at push. 930 East 50th Street, part 2 of this will be there, because I got enough sense to know that I've already talked too long. I want you to think about the stranger, Reverend Dyson, in your life. It's going to be a nameless, faceless person who enters your life and restores your hope. And so when Jesse Jackson said, I don't care what the political class says, they're only interested in high propensity voters. My father looked at the undecided, Father Flager, and he recognized that they lacked somebodyness. And he told them to keep hope alive. But that's not enough. Keeping hope alive is the answer to suicidality. Not only for individuals who might want to kill themselves, but for a nation on the brink of self-destruction. Keep hope alive. For a man or a woman getting ready to hang themselves who's given up on hope, Bishop Ellis, Reverend Jackson says they need hope, not dope. Kevin Adele, he took the ministry from Sunday morning and he delivered it to the people. I am somebodyness is what Jesse Jackson's known for. Not the 84 and 88 campaign and just voter registration. Jesse Jackson's greatest contribution is not political. It is psychological. Negro, you are better off today than you were when you met this Negro.
Well, coming up tonight on Roland Martin Unfiltered, Roland will examine a new civil rights report indicating that the lynchings of Black men in America have not stopped. Rather, they have evolved into being misclassified as suicides or accidents. That story, plus so much more news tonight, 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern, right here on the Black Star Network. Coming up after the break, an Indianapolis program that's helping families get their hands in the soil and grow their own food. Growing Good in the Hood is offering no-cost garden plots where people of all ages can learn how to grow fresh fruits and vegetables while building healthier communities. We'll talk with the leaders behind the initiative about how it works and how you can get involved. The story is coming up after the break. But first, remember your support is absolutely critical to the work that we do here at the Black Star Network. You can support us via Cash App using the Stripe code. We'll put that in the bottom left-hand corner here. You can also help us out with credit cards. Use the same thing. PayPal's are Martin Unfiltered. Venmo's RM Unfiltered. Zelle at RolandSMartin.com. Rolling at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. If you're old school, you can send checks and money orders payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Our goal is to raise $1 million by December 31st, and we certainly appreciate your support. We'll see you after the break.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Bria Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Violent white supremacy is, quote, the most persistent and lethal threat in the homeland.
The greatest terrorist threat to the homeland is the homegrown violence stream, including hate crime committed on behalf of some kind of white supremacist ideology.
They are coming after everything in Black America. MAGA and Donald Trump are specifically targeting Black America. They are going after the money. Attack Black Lives Matter. Attack critical race theory. Attack woke, DEI. MAGA wants to defund Black America. This is a perfect example of their desire to completely degrade and de-emphasize Black people.
Hi, I'm Swing Cash, Basketball Hall of Famer, and you're watching Black Star Network.
Welcome back. It's time for the Noble Spotlight. There's an Indianapolis organization aiming to teach Black communities to be their own farmers by growing their own fruits and vegetables. Growing Good in the Hood is a program that rents no-cost farming plots to farmers. And the sweet thing about all of this is that all ages are welcome. This initiative is a great opportunity for families to learn about agriculture and to nourish their bodies with healthier foods. Joining us to talk about the program is Carol Castillo and Lakaya Muhammad. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today on The Breakdown.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Carol, we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit more about how this initiative began.
Miss Fair, she's a strong believer in growing your own food, and she brought that with her from the community that she grew up in. She's one of the founders of the Cup Institute here in Indianapolis, and the community got together. They were able to acquire space on a church plot. And then we moved over to the Boulevard campus after a couple of years. And there we are. Yeah.
Got you. And just to add to that piece, Growing Good in the Hood, the inception started with the closing of the Double 8 grocery stores, which was in predominantly Black communities. So it was already a food desert. But when the Double 8 closed, which is like a low budget grocery store, it left the community with absolutely nothing and no access to food. So community members got together at the Kepler Institute and decided to become solution-based and say, what can we do? And out of that problem, Growing Good in the Hood became the solution.
And Lakaya, tell us a little bit more about how that program is run.
Got you. So Carol is actually the current shepherd. I was the shepherd of Growing Good in the Hood for 6 years. But what we do, we have an eighth of an acre. This is the current model that you're looking at right now. And we do an application process for anyone in the city who is interested and who wants to have a family dynamic of connectivity and to learn how to grow food from seed to harvest. We don't use any pesticides, so it's 100% natural. We provide the starter plants from a very trusted organization called the Elephant Gardens that grows our food with good integrity or grows our starter plants. And then we literally teach them how to nurture it from seed to table. Sometimes we host cooking classes. Carol here is an herbalist, and so I will pass it to her for her to talk about this next phase of it.
Yeah, so we food is central. It brings people together, brings community together. It access to food just stabilizes our baseline. And when we have a stable baseline, we can expand our capacity and how we show up in the world and take that power with us. We've done workshops on herbal salves. We've done canning workshops. And this is from connections throughout the community, other organizations that may be doing a workshop, or even on the 17-acre living laboratory, Octavia's visionary campus on the south side of Indianapolis that Kepler also stewards. And we have lunch and learns there where we can learn fermentation and all kinds of different things to cultivate those connections to food.
What have families said about the experience of growing and eating the food that they grow?
Well, I'll say that it's really hard to go back to store-bought tomatoes at the end of the season. They'll you know, speak on the difference in the taste, you know, the robustness of just the taste of the food, and just being able to see how the garden changes over time from our efforts together. Yeah, and really being able to shape that for ourselves.
Absolutely. And it is absolutely a family-oriented program. We had one family, and they were going through some issues within the family, and it was children on up to their grandmother. And so they would make an effort to come for togetherness every Thursday for Growing Good in the Hood. So we say that we're growing food and people at the same time. So Growing Good in the Hood is absolutely an act of community activism and community togetherness. And we've seen it bring together families who had practically nothing in common to become a space of love for them. And my favorite story to share is we had one grower, she was suicidal, and we saw that on the clip before. And she said that if she didn't find a reason to live or desire to live after that particular year, she would end her life. And so she became a grower with Growing Good in the Hood, and just coming out and being with community and growing the food and the sunlight and the support that she had there. She has now lived past that end date of her life. And so it's now been 6 years and she is actually thriving. So that's one of the magical things about Growing Good in the Hood as well.
Oh, that's incredible. Where can people get in touch to learn more, and especially if they want to participate or just support you?
Yeah, the application's open on kepra.org/growinggood. It's open till the 21st. And
Instagram, you can click the link in the bio on Instagram if you forget how to spell Kepra Institute. So it's our Instagram is Growing Good in the Hood, spelled just like that at the bottom. Or you can message, either one of us will reply to you if you have any questions there as well.
Lakaya and Carol, thank you so much for joining us today on The Breakdown.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Coming up after the break, a Black entrepreneur is redefining luxury in the watch industry. We're talking about the inspiration behind Eartha by Amir and how the brand is turning timepieces into symbols of culture, legacy, and style. Stay with us. We'll see you after the break.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Rhea Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Welcome back. Eartha by Amir is redefining modern luxury by creating watches that represent elegance, identity, and legacy. Joining us now to talk about the inspiration behind his brand and what makes Eartha by Amir stand out in the luxury watch space is the founder himself. Amir, thank you so much for joining us today on The Breakdown.
Thank you for having me, Brittany. It's good to see you.
Absolutely. It's great to see you. Tell us a little bit about your story and how you were able to start an entire brand for watches.
Yes. So the journey started over a decade ago. I would say that. My mother, she gifted me my very first watch. She just walked in the door one day after work and she just handed it to me. She was like, two things a man should always have are a wallet and a watch. And I was like, okay, and I'm looking at it and I'm trying it on and I'm loving it. And I started wearing it to school. It was a big face watch. And immediately I just started to get so many compliments and I started to feel myself. So I would never walk out of the house without a watch on because of those words. This was in my early teenage years. I'm developing and all of the things. And I eventually grew up having this dream of having my own collection. But it was in the form of like partnering with a high-end luxury watch brand that was already established because my background was in television. And so I said, one day I'm gonna become famous working in TV and I'm gonna pursue an Amir Wharton collection with a high-end luxury timepiece brand. And that's gonna be my personal brand. But life started lifing when I moved to LA and that dream of having my own collection was actually in the form of me started my own brand and back then it was like to provide myself with extra income. But as I began to build the foundation and really develop this brand, it became more than just another stream of income, but something that I really wanted to be purposeful and impactful in the world.
Amir, I know you said life was lifing, but I mean, tell us just how bad it got. I mean, at the time you were homeless, right?
Yes. I graduated from Delaware State University. And so right after college, about 4 months, I moved to LA because nobody was hiring me. I did the internships, I did everything right, but nobody was hiring me in Los Angeles because I wasn't physically there. And so I literally just upped and left and I gave myself about a month to find work. And I did, working at one of the major studio companies. And they weren't paying me a lot of money. So I've had times of sleeping in my car. I had times of sitting on curbs, bouncing through homes, through Airbnbs, but still was showing up to work every day. Nobody knew what I was going through. But when I got stable, I said, I can't depend on this stream of income because I'm in the rooms, but I'm not making money. So I don't want to quit the job yet because I'm so early in my career. So I'm like, well, I have to stay here. I have to stay at this job. I have to stay in LA. So what can I do to make ends meet? And so I started thinking about all of my talents and my interests. And that's when watches came to mind. And I didn't know anything about business, manufacturers, or anything. But it took me about 15 months of learning and developing and trying to figure out how to start a watch company before I officially launched a brand.
And tell us a little bit more about what that process was like creating this watch company.
So I remember the first night I ran to YouTube. The first thing I did, I went to YouTube and said, like, how do you build a watch? Those were the exact words, because I thought that I had to physically make the watch myself because I didn't know anything about manufacturers. I have an eye for like design and detail when it comes to timepieces. So my creativity was there, but I'm like, okay, well, how can I take what's in my brain and on the sketch and make it physically? So I went to YouTube and was looking at videos and learning about, the different parts that goes inside of the watch that you don't see and all of the things. And then I started having a conversation with one of my friends, and I was telling her, I said, I want to start a watch company. So I'm just learning how to build a watch. And then that's when she told me her dad is a serial entrepreneur. And so she introduced me to her dad, and he was like, no, you don't have to build it yourself. You have a manufacturer who builds it for you. I'm like, oh, because I'm like, well, if I'm trying to be selling thousands of watches, how am I gonna do that and work in Hollywood at the same time? So he was just giving me, some game on that. And then I just continued to grow and research and getting samples and prototypes and everything like that.
Incredible. So tell us about what you've been able to create and what people can purchase now.
Yeah, so now we have this is our Vision collection right here. I'm wearing our rose gold one. All of our pieces are unisex. And they're also designed to add a touch of luxury to any attire for any occasion. So if you're looking for a piece during the day, we have something for you. If you're looking for a piece during the evening, we have something for you. And the mission behind each timepiece is to ignite you to maximize your time. Whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, that mission is only going to be accomplished through how you maximize your time. So if you're looking to gain weight, you're looking to lose weight, you want to spend more time with your family, all of those things will only be maximized with time. And so those are the pieces that we strive to design, is through that philosophy.
And where can we purchase your timepieces?
earthawatches.com. We're actually running a sale right now as well, where all of our timepieces that are in stock are currently 20% off. And so earthawatches.com, EARTHA watches.com.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today and telling us all things about Eartha by Amir. Your story is just amazing, and we thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you, Brittany. The honor is mine. Appreciate you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you again for joining us. All right, folks, you can head to our website, shopblackstarnetwork.com, and that's where you can support our growing collection of Black-owned businesses. It's a way for you to shop blackstarnetwork.com and shop that collection of Black-owned businesses featured on the site. We have apparel, accessories, timepieces, just like Eartha by Amir. You can discover brands doing incredible work and keep our money circulating in our community. Again, that's shopblackstarnetwork.com. Support the culture, okay? That's going to do it for us today on The Breakdown. Thank you for spending part of your day with us. Of course, be sure to keep the conversation going online. Use the hashtag The Breakdown. You can follow me at The Noble Journalist. Remember, I always love to hear from you. Please send me your questions, your story ideas. Let us know what's happening in your community. And do not forget, we'll be right back here tomorrow with more news, more context, and more voices that matter.